All right, welcome back to another episode of Three Dudes, One Hoop. As always, I'm Mike. I'm here with Easy and Benny.
Let's go.
And today we have kind of our first look at the NBA 2021-2022 season. We're going to do our way too early predictions. I think the season starts, what, like October 29th, 28th, something like
October, no,
that?
it's actually October 19th this year.
Oh, October 19th. Okay, so it's only 20 days away about. So
Just about.
so we're sitting here, it's September 30th, so tomorrow's already October 1st, and we're gonna start giving our predictions, giving some insight into what we think is gonna happen this year. So we're gonna do the major awards and talk about who we think is gonna finish top eight in each conference. And yeah, that being and I'm sure we'll hit up some topical things, Ben Simmons along the way, talk about different things that are going on. But that being said, we're gonna kick it off here. I think the best place to start would be MVP. I think that's going to be a pretty interesting award this year. So I'll throw it over to you, Benny. Who do you have for your MVP?
I was stuck between two guys. I'm sure you guys probably have a combination of one of these guys that I'm about to pick, at least one of them. I ended up going with I think Kevin Durant is going to win MVP this season.
Ooh, okay, nice.
Yeah, do you guys want me to talk about it, or are you guys just going
Yeah.
to give yours and then?
Do you want to go around and pick all of ours, or do you want to each talk
I,
about
just,
it?
I, I could just I could just keep going
Yeah,
on.
let's do Benny talks about his, and then like we'll bounce off based on that.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Benny.
I think Kevin Durant has been due for a monster season ever since that Achilles injury he had in the finals a couple seasons ago against Toronto. And obviously, he missed his whole first year with Brooklyn. Obviously, the expectations with Brooklyn in itself are massive. He missed that first season there. They got James Harden. The expectations just got even higher. They didn't get the result that they wanted for different reasons, but in the playoffs, we saw just how absolutely nuclear this guy's still capable of being. He averaged 34, 9, and like 5 in the playoffs. And it's not like they lost in the first round, so he only played like 4 or 5 games. They almost made the conference finals. They were 3 inches away, right? If he took that long two
Yeah,
against the Bucks, he took it a few inches back. They would have won
or
that
a
game.
half size shorter.
Yeah,
Literally
exactly. They
wears
would have been
bigger
in the conference
shoes for no
finals.
reason. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure he wears a bigger shoe on
it's more
purpose, and
comfortable.
that size difference probably would have been the difference between a two and a three.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and then if we look at the like I just mentioned the ridiculous form that this guy was in last year's playoffs, I
Yeah,
think if he can carry that form into the season that we have coming up, even with James Harden, even if with Kyrie Irving, I think this guy could definitely win MVP.
yeah, Leva. I don't know who you had as MVP. I had Kevin Durant as well.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah,
So there's
and
some
okay,
agreement. Yeah.
I have okay, so this is the reason why, and I have like a couple other guys that I might mention that maybe you would pick Leva,
Sure. Yeah.
but
Go for it.
I guess the reason why I'm picking Katie is because this league has a thing of adopting storylines that they like when it comes to these awards. And I kept looking at the list of guys that it could be. And I'm like, the Kevin Durant storyline has been due for a while. Like Benny said, like we've been waiting on another big season for KD. And whether or not he has an even bigger season or not, it's not up to us. It's up to him. But the NBA is craving that story. It's 100% a story that the NBA has been chasing. And then there's also different ones that the league is chasing as well. But I don't think those guys are on good enough teams to justify them getting the MVP, right? So, like, for example, Curry got third last year. But the reason why they gave him third was because they knew he wasn't going to be first because his team was garbage.
Right.
So, of
Yeah, his
course, you're going
stats
to put a
were
guy.
amazing. So
Yeah,
I think he was deserving of votes, but there's no way he's gonna
right. Like,
win
for
it.
example, like if you look at last year, you can make a case that Curry should have been ahead of Embiid. Like,
Yeah,
and the voting was so significantly different, which just keeps validating that, like, your record matters, right? Yeah. So when I look at a lot of these guys that could be MVP, most of these guys aren't going to have the record. So my pick will be Kevin Durant, barring injury, of course. All these awards, by the way, I went under the impression that we're hoping that nobody gets injured, right? Like
yeah, for
that's
sure. I
Right,
mean, you
right. Yeah.
miss 15 to
yeah.
20 games, and you're probably out of the MVP race.
So
So
I'm going for Kevin Durant, not only for that, but just because with these teams that are going to end up competing for the finals, they have a tendency to rest players. I don't remember them resting Kevin Durant as much as they were like Kyrie was missing games for whatever
yeah,
reason, and then
I think they
Harden
really
too.
couldn't. Yeah, because exactly what you
Right.
said. Like Kyrie and Harden were in and out.
So like Kevin
Yeah,
Durant seems to be like the mainstay, and he's not going to want to rest games after
yeah,
last year. So I have Kevin
Why
Durant,
not?
but there's a couple other guys that I like considered based on if something happens. Um,
Mike
if
might have picked one of them.
right, like I'll let you go, and then I'll mention the ones that I thought of. I'm curious to see who you
So
picked.
I didn't pick KD. So it's interesting. We almost had for the first time ever, like the three of us like all picking the same
Three.
person. Um, so I picked the guy who's tied for him in terms of like the second favorite, and it's Joel Embiid. So according to Vegas insiders, they're both plus 700, tied for second in terms of
Really?
favorites going into next season. Yeah,
It makes sense.
Luca's the favorite. I'm surprised none of us picked Luca. I would have thought that Easy would have picked Luca. But I guess you'll
I'll get
probably talk
into that
about that in a
after. Yeah.
second. Um, so I picked Joel Embiid. I think Easy, you bring up a good point when you talk about narrative. Um, I think Joel Embiid was somebody who had a lot of momentum going into award season last year, but then he got hurt. So not necessarily that he would have won the award last year, but I think he was definitely one of the favorites. And you talk about narrative. There's no more interesting NBA team right now than the 76ers. Um, maybe the Nets when they're healthy, but we'll see. But I think
Yeah.
you know in a world where Ben Simmons is not on the team, which is looking more and more likely every day, Joel still has a really competitive group around him. Still has Doc Rivers there. They're probably going to finish top 3 or 4 in the East. Um, I think they'll have a good record. I think he's going to put up monster stats. Real quick, I'll just read out his stats from last year because they were ridiculous. This guy was shooting 37% from three. He was shooting over 50% from the field. He was making 9 free throws a game, shooting 86% from the line, averaging 28 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, one steal, 1 block. So I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous numbers. And I think on a team that's really going to be centered around him now, and maybe he'll have to put in more energy on the defensive end. So maybe offensively he might suffer a little bit, but I think more and more they're just going to run the offense through him. Um, so given all that, I think he's set up really nicely for an MVP run this year. I would have had KD number 2, by the way, just for the record.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
what were you say, Benny?
I was just gonna say that I would have had Doncic number 2 because Mike
Okay.
was bringing up the odds and stuff like that. But yeah,
Right.
sorry.
Yeah. No. You're good. With Embiid, I definitely see the path for an MVP. Like you said, I remember him being the favorite before injuries happened, and then people started getting on Jokic. Um, the only thing I'd be worried about is let's say they do trade Simmons, and we'll get into it a little later with the Sixers. We don't know what the complexion of that team's going to look like. It's going to be good because there's never been a Doc Rivers team that has talent that doesn't do well in the regular season. So I'm not worried too much about that. I'm more worried about whether or not he'll do enough of a difference from last year to win MVP, like to separate himself from that narrative of last year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
I
how
don't
is
think he
he
has to do
gonna?
too much more though, just because like
Right.
we were saying, he was
I
already a
think,
favorite.
yeah.
So yeah.
I
But
think
go
it's
ahead.
the defensive side, like you were saying, that he's gonna have to like show that he can dominate. Like it can't
Yeah.
be like a block a game. You can't be 7 feet getting a block a game. And if
Yeah.
you're like that talented, you're gonna need to show me more on defense. Offensively, there's not much else he can do. Like you really can't ask for more from him. So I think that little edge defensively will get him there. But going to Luca now, the only reason I can't pick Luca as an MVP is what I was talking about earlier. His team is not going to be good enough to get him an MVP. Like it's just the reality. They re-signed the same guys. They added, I'm pretty sure they added like a couple other guys. I forget their names, but they're not guys that are going to win you games. Like it's not a guy that this team isn't going to be propelled to like a 4th seed now just because they added a couple guys. And not to mention they fired Rick Carlisle. So like now you're going to be
Yeah.
dealing with a new coach, probably a new system in some format. I don't see like, again,
A very suspect head coaching hiring at that.
it was Jason Kidd, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Jason Kidd. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
still
So
there.
like,
which is very suspect in my opinion. But go ahead, Easy.
yeah. So like, again, I don't know a time where there was an MVP that wasn't a team in the top 4 of any conference, right?
Russell
Like,
Westbrook was probably the last
Yeah,
one.
Russell was, but that's because he had
But
a
and the
historic
last one,
season.
but also the first
Yeah.
one in a while. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So like, it's clearly not a trend. It's like an
Right.
anomaly, if anything. this guy would have to put up like astronomical numbers to even be considered MVP if his team isn't meeting the expectations of the other teams that are in the top of the conference.
Right.
So that's why I didn't pick Luka. I could see the path because going back to storylines, nobody, like, if the NBA wants a face for international basketball, they're not going to go with Jokic. Like, I think we clearly saw that during the season.
Yeah, it's already
nobody
Luka.
talked. Yeah, and
Yeah.
like nobody wanted to talk about Jokic's MVP. It was probably the
No,
most
definitely
quiet.
not. It
It
really
was one of the most quiet MVP awards given to a player of all time.
And a lot of it was because of just injury and guys missing games. Like, I don't think they
Right.
wanted to give it to him the award. He was just like the most logical answer because nobody else was
Well,
really eligible. So
And he was also the MVP.
yeah,
but
no, he was
that's
the MVP for sure. Yeah,
right. And that's why I'm saying, like,
yeah.
the media, at least the way the media carried Jokic, clearly they
Mhm.
don't want him to be the international face like a Dirk Nowitzki.
Definitely.
But they do want Luka to be that 100%. So if he even has a semblance of a better season and the Mavs are in the top 4, I can 100% see them giving it to him. Like 100%. And you could say Giannis with
Yeah.
the international factor as well, but there's just something about the way Luka is, the way he plays, that it's much more appealing than the way Giannis plays in terms of like the beauty of the game, like the passing, the offensive flair. Because Giannis has that like ferocious tenacity, but like the finesse of a Luka, I don't know. I feel like Luka is very, I don't know. It's like a baby face, you know?
Yeah, he's more relatable. I mean, he's more marketable
Yeah.
too, because who can relate to a 7-foot giant? You know,
Right.
it's hard.
I can vibe with his lifestyle though. I don't know if you saw his like off-season stuff. That guy's so
Yeah,
lit.
he's doing it. He's doing nice. He's having a lot of fun.
Yeah. And then just a couple other
Um,
names that I had here, just like as
yeah.
a toss-up. I can't discount Giannis just because I can't discount Giannis just as a
Yeah.
player.
He was my third. He was my third.
Yeah. And then I have Curry here just as like a wild card. It really depends on the team again. It's one of those like it depends on the team whether or not, because if you got third on a team that barely made play-in, clearly the league hasn't like separated themselves from the Curry mania yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of it depends on team success. I feel like the Warriors are like one of the biggest like boomer bust teams this year. You know,
Even
so
Jimmy Butler was getting votes, and also that's another team that lost in the first round. So
yeah, that's a
it
good
wasn't
point.
a lot of candidates. I mean, not to discredit Jokic though, because I do think he deserved to win MVP. But it was kind of like Easy was saying, it was boring, I guess you could say, because it wasn't like a flash of a Luka Doncic or even a LeBron James or a Kevin Durant or James Harden. Players like that were kind of in and out of their own starting lineups. So
Yeah, if the media had a more interesting story that they could have picked, they would have picked it. But you know, LeBron didn't play like he missed games. Embiid missed a bunch of games.
Everyone
so
missed games.
They just couldn't do it.
Everybody
Everybody
missed.
missed
I
games.
looked at the
Harden.
I looked at the game. Like if you even look at the MVP list, you look at it and you're like, this isn't a healthy year.
Yeah.
Like having Jokic, Embiid, Curry as the top 3 is not what the league wants. Like that is not what you want.
Yeah, they really want Luka, LeBron to be in there.
They want KD up there. They want guys
they definitely want KD up there. Yeah.
Right. So like again, it goes back to team success. And again, I'm super happy that Jokic won last year. It was finally like a breath of fresh air, at least as like a basketball fan. Like, oh wow, like the guy who actually deserved it got it. And like
just for him to be in the conversation was a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. Like literally someone that
absolutely
like and like just like he is the most offensively skilled big man, like I could dare say ever.
Maybe
like in
you
terms
can
of
argue
his
it. You
ability
can
to
argue
score,
it. Yeah.
Facilitate, like so it was super cool seeing that. So MVP is going to be interesting this year. Again, it depends on team success and injuries, but I could see a path for all these guys. Everyone that we talked about, there is a path.
Yeah, and so I guess we'll move on to our next award. So we're gonna do. Let me go to our list here. Sorry, I moved it.
I think we have 6-man next.
6-man next. All right, so we'll do 6-man of the year next. I guess I'll kick it off here.
Yeah.
So I just chose Jeremy Clarkson again, or sorry, Jordan Clarkson again.
Yeah.
I just feel like he's still in a good team. He's still gonna get crazy, like a good amount of minutes, a healthy amount of volume, and it's just kind of the thing where I feel like 6-man of the year is just like, you just have to be really good offensively, and like it's like the Lou Will kind of formula where you just have to come off the bench, be a spark plug, score a lot of points. You literally don't have to do anything else. Be on a good team, and he says he's already won it. It's this type of thing where like I think the media likes to stick with one guy for a while, So I can see him winning it again this year. He's the favorite again, so I just think it's gonna go chalk, and I think he's gonna win it.
Yeah. How about you, Benny?
I agree with Mike. Actually, I had Jordan Clarkson winning it as well. I think he had a really good season, and his team's really good. He's going to get the same opportunities he had before. His role's not going to be anything crazy where he's gonna have to come out of that shell, maybe be thrown into the starting lineup for the majority of the season because his team isn't doing well. I don't think that's going to happen with him, and I think he's already comfortable where he's at. But I was really close to having actually Tim Hardaway Jr.
Okay.
on that
That's a good
list.
sleeper pick, actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
he kind of fits the same mold.
I think Tim Hardaway Jr. can have a really good season as well, and he could probably sneak into that conversation.
I think with Tim Hardaway, it's going to depend on how the coach wants to play him. Because
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's a starter.
Yeah,
Like
that's
alongside-
why I
Yeah.
didn't pick him eventually in the end. That's why I didn't pick him because I could see him starting.
Yeah.
But
I
If
can
he's
see that.
6-man, though, I could definitely see him winning it. Like, it's the same thing with Clarkson. I had Clarkson, too.
Okay. Oh wow, so we all agreed.
Because, like Leva said, like, the media has a tendency for 6-man to always pick the same 6-man every year. We saw it with Lou
Exactly.
Will. We saw it with Jamal Crawford. J.R. Smith
Exactly.
even got it, I think, a couple years or at least 1 year. I do have a sleeper pick that I don't
Okay,
think
go
we're
for it.
thinking about
Yeah.
yet.
Absolutely.
And I think has to do with the fact that he's on a 1 year deal too. That's gonna help. Dennis Schroeder with Boston.
Ooh, that's a good pick. Yeah.
I know he's not starting on that team. I know he's
No,
not
definitely
starting
not. Yeah,
because they're
definitely
gonna
not.
have Marcus Smart, Tatum, Brown, a big, and then some sort of like Peyton Pritchard maybe or like another forward that they like
Yeah.
better, like
Mhm.
Neesmith even. Schroeder off the bench is perfect. Like it's literally what we're looking for in a 6-man. It's always the guy who can score.
it's
Mm.
been
That
where
is
he
what
was at
Schroeder
his
is.
best. His last year in
Yeah.
Oklahoma City, he averaged almost 20 points coming off the bench efficiently. So
Yeah.
behind
So I
Chris
mean,
Paul, no less.
so that's why I'm thinking Clarkson. I mean, I have Clarkson as a shoe-in because that he won last year. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
It's also
really
just the
only
way that he
reason.
plays. Like it's just very conducive to winning
The
those types of
6-man.
awards. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I got Clarkson, if not Schroeder, and then even Ingles. I mean, if
He
Ingles
came
might
in
not be a
second. He came in second
yeah.
last year. Yeah.
So like a couple other names, I know they're not going to do as well, but Kendrick Nunn in Lakers, if he gets a big enough role, could be interesting as a 6-man.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I don't think he'll get the minutes though. And then
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was a long
I
shot
don't
for
see
me.
it. Yeah.
right, and then Kevin Werder, that was another one. But
Okay.
I don't know. I'm more hot on the Dennis Schroeder chance than most of those guys besides Clarkson. Clarkson's gonna win it probably.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't really like any of the other names I saw on the odds list and stuff. I mean, Clarkson's like by far the favorite. Um, Herder, Patty Mills, they're kind of grouped together. I don't really see. Do you guys see with Patty? Because I kept seeing him show up, but I just
No,
don't see him getting
me neither.
the volume or playing in that style. So I
No,
don't know why he's
that's not
second.
happening.
Yeah,
That's
No
not
way.
happening.
I wouldn't bet any money on Patty Mills, even though he's like one of the favorites. So okay, so we're all agreed. Jordan Clarkson, congratulations, you're gonna win 6-man of the year. So we're gonna move on to defensive player of the year. Kind of gonna be an interesting year. It's kind of usually like the usual suspects, but I guess we'll start with you, Easy. Why don't you tell us who you have as your deep boy?
I hate this award so much.
Mhm,
I really hate it. It's
mhm.
given to the same guy every year.
This is like the
Um,
6-man.
Yeah, it's
it
like this.
really is. Yeah.
It might low key be worse than the 6-man
It is
because
worse. I agree.
the NBA has a tendency to always give it to like a big man because they feel
Mhm.
bad that they can't give a big man an award anywhere else because it just never happens.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's always like a guy like just tends to be a year where that guy wins it, like the same guy wins it, but he doesn't deserve it, but he
yeah,
just wins it because of the media. So
yeah, and like
yeah,
the best part is all these guys end up for the most part getting kind of exposed in the playoffs. So it's like
that's very
even
true.
it's even worse. So I'm gonna pick the guy that did get exposed in the playoffs this year, Rudy Gobert. That's gonna end up being
Okay.
defensive player of the year because he's gonna be on the best team. He's gonna be the greatest number percentage of change shots in the paint because that's the stat that they always love. He's gonna get it. I hate it, but it's gonna happen. I can't even like the idea that Ben Simmons might even compete for the award. His reputation has already been tarnished so badly as a player and as a person that I know that the NBA is not going to give it to Ben Simmons. Like I just know that nobody is going to pick Ben Simmons, and he was second place last year. So who's it going to be instead? Unless Giannis, for whatever reason, has like a nuclear defensive season, which I don't see happening. I don't see anybody else being able to catch up to Rudy Gobert.
Okay, so I think Betty, you had your hand up. So did you have Giannis?
I did pick Giannis.
Okay,
Yeah, easy. Were you done with talking about Rudy? I can go
Yeah,
into
I mean,
Giannis.
I don't even want to keep talking about Rudy. Take it away, please.
Okay, it probably will be Rudy. I was talking about, we were talking about how it's always like the same person, and it feels like this is the award that the NBA media writers either they know the least about or they care the least about.
how do you
But
evaluate defense?
here I am, and I'm gonna pick probably one of the favorites. I'm pretty sure he's won this award before, actually. But yeah, he has won this award.
Yep.
I'm going with Giannis for Defensive Player of the Year. This will be, I think, his second in like 2 or 3 years that he wins it. And
Yeah,
the
I think
main
he won
reason
it
I
2 years ago. Yeah.
yeah, the main reason I see this, usually you have the whole championship slump thing. I actually think this is the reason that he wins the award, is because he has that championship from last year. And the reason that I tie the two together is because, well, obviously he's already a very good defender. He's an elite defender, one of the best defenders in the NBA, on top of the ridiculous wingspan that allows him to be as shut down as he is in any part of the court. But I think winning that championship allows him to take chances even more free than he was before. And because of that length that he has, it will pay off for him more often than not, more often than most players for sure. So I'm talking about jumping more into passing lanes, jumping more in the air for blocks, risking the foul type of thing, or for the sake of getting the block, or the steals. I think his numbers can go up in pretty much every single way. I think he'll be more aggressive on one-on-one situations just because he has that championship. He has that off his back, and he can play more freely because he knows I have my ring, and I'm going to prove that I belong in this conversation of the best players of all time. And I think that's his next focus now.
Yeah, Giannis is probably like top 3 for me. He's not who I picked. I actually didn't pick either of your guys' pick. And before I get to my guy, I'll quickly say I think Benson. I didn't pick Ben Simmons, but I think he low key has a chance to actually win it this year. And I know you were talking about how like he couldn't be more hated than he is now. So why would the media pick him? But I think a lot of times it's like that can go the other way, where he's getting so much attention this year that the media is going to be on top of him so much. And if he just keeps playing really good defense, if let's say he goes, obviously, he's probably not going to be on Philadelphia, but let's say he goes to whatever, Kings, I don't know, some random team, pick a team, um, and he just continues playing the way that he's playing, focuses on defense, gets highlighted night after night because the media's just always going to be talking about him. I think he has actually a pretty decent chance to win it. So he's my number 2. But my number 1, I think, is Anthony Davis. So I think the Lakers have a good chance to be a good defensive team this year. And I think the issue with AD is that he just never, he's always injury prone, right? He has an injury bug. He never plays like 100% of the games. But I think he can guard 1 through 5. I think, I think they're going to play in a way this year where it might be a little more slow, a little more not so. I mean, I know Russell Westbrook obviously, he would like to play fast, but I just don't see it if they have LeBron, AD, and Russ on the court at the same time. I think it might be a little slower. And I think there's going to be a lot of low-scoring games. The Lakers, past 2-3 years, how long LeBron and Vogel have been there, they've had a really good defense. And I think AD, if he's healthy, plays the majority of the games, I think they're going to show out and have a really good year. I think they want him to win an award. I think LeBron really wants to push him to be better. And I think in year 3 of them being together, they have a great team. This could kind of low key be their season to have AD be the star of the show here. And on the defensive end, like there's no questioning like how good he is. He can guard 1 through 5. So I think he has a good chance to win Depoy. So that's why I'm picking him. A little bit of a dark horse.
A little bit of a dark horse.
He's favored. He's one of the favorites.
I mean, the only reason I have a few things with AD. I heard, I mean, again, I don't know how much merit there is to it, but I hear he's not looking the greatest right now, like in shape wise, which again, that could change during the season, but I don't know. I
don't know how much to take stock into preseason stuff.
Right. But like, for example, like I take a little bit of stock because like, for example, when a guy does end up popping off in the gym, right? Like for example, Sabonis. I heard last season before the season started, yo, this guy's looking good. Like this guy has been a gym animal. This guy's not left. And look at the season that guy had. So like, I don't want to say I'm putting a lot of stock, but there is a tendency to get lackadaisical when you're with so much talent on your team. And I'm not saying that that's going to be AD, but I don't think he's going to propel himself defensively enough to push him up into that like defensive player of the year category. You get me? I don't know. And with
I just think they're gonna also really need his defensive contribution
right.
this season. So I think if the brain trust of LeBron and Rondo and Russell Westbrook get together, Vogel, they're like, look, AD, we need you to really focus on the defensive end. I think he can do it. I think he has the mindset for it. I don't think he's somebody to get lazy too. That's
Right.
the other thing. So I kind of see him uh shining on the defensive side of the court because I think that's where the team's going to need the most help.
Yeah. And then real quick, I want to go back to your Simmons comment because I think you're wrong. I think you're 100% wrong. If that guy gets traded from Philly and you say pick any team and I pick the Kings, who in the world is going to care that Ben Simmons is playing defense on the Kings? Who is going to care?
Just mean he's gonna get a lot of attention either way, good or bad. And I think
No.
when the media's watching him night after night, and I don't think he has enough talent, at least on the defensive side of the court, that he can be in the depoy conversation. A lot of it's just the mindset, which I think is like all of our biggest problem with him. But I think he can do it. I mean, yeah, I agree. If he goes to the Kings and they suck, I get it.
Yeah.
But
And no
if
team contending is going to trade for Ben Simmons. No team contending is going to do it. And that's clearly based on the defensive player of the year candidates that we've seen the last 5 years, because it's been the same ones for 5 years.
Yeah, probably longer. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's Gobert because he's on a winning team. It's Simmons
Yeah.
because he's on a winning team. It's Giannis because he's on a winning team.
Yeah, then
Bam,
Draymond all those years. Yeah,
Draymond.
bam. Yeah.
It's like you're going to have to be on a good team. And if you trade Ben Simmons, it doesn't matter how great of a defender you are. But if you're going to the Kings, if you're going to the Cavs, if you're going to Toronto, no one is going to care. Like once he gets traded, it's going to be a conversation about Ben for 2 weeks. And then it's going to go right back to Embiid being alone in Philly. No one is going to care. I'm telling you, we
Stephen
only
A.
care.
ranting about Philadelphia sports.
Yeah, like I'm just saying, like I know how this goes. A star player gets traded, and then there's a bigger star in the team that was already there, and everyone's going to talk about Embiid. And that, like you said, that's why I think the Embiid narrative for MVP makes so much sense. Because if they do trade him and he does pop off, why wouldn't you give it to him?
But don't you think like it's kind of like almost like a conciliation like consolation prize for Ben Simmons after being shit on like relentlessly by everybody, and I feel like he's gonna come out in the middle of the season.
We're not talking about winning the
health.
award off merit. Then we're just
No. I mean, he has the talent to do it. I mean, that's not a question. He's been a favorite before. But I mean, yeah, ultimately, it's true what Easy's saying. Like, you need to be on a good team. You need to be on a good team. It's not that no one's gonna care, but you do need to be on a good team for it.
Because like with 6 men, you can kind of forgive. Because like if you're on like a 5th or 6th seed team, and like you're a 6 man, and you're kind of the reason why they even made it to the 5th or 6th seed, you can make a conversation about that. Even most improved that we're going to get into a little later. But like, when it comes to defensive player of the year, I can't remember a time that there was a guy who was not on a top tier team winning that award. It's the same thing with MVP in a way. It's just the nature of the award. And also, like Benny said, these guys that vote for defensive player of the year never know what the hell they're talking about. It pisses me off.
They're so inconsistent. There's been times where I forgot who the player was. Maybe you guys know who it was. That the dude won. It was either defensive player of the year or he made an all NBA team or something like that. And the dude wasn't even an all-star or something like that. Or like you'll see instances where the guy wins the award for defensive player of the year or whatever it was, but he doesn't make an all NBA defensive team, or he makes an all NBA defensive second team. I think it happened with Marc Gasol where he won. He won.
Oh yes,
defensive player of the year, and then he was defensive player of the year, and then he was voted on to all defense like second or third team. That makes no sense. And it's the same people voting.
It pisses me off. Like when you brought up the defensive player of the year, I'm like, you know what? Wait, he's right. Like, what the hell is going on here? Because fucking what's it called? Because like, and they always have a tendency to pick a center. Like they're always gonna pick a big man. Like even with Ben Simmons, like I would have arguably said this year
should be a center.
Maybe he's shooting with the wrong hand. I don't know.
Shooting with the wrong hand.
But like going back to the center thing, it's always a center. And like you could have made the case that Ben Simmons should have won last year. Like you definitely could have made that case. But if they didn't give it to Ben Simmons last year, there's no way they're gonna give it to him this year when he's gonna be on a different team.
Yeah, that's fair.
I agree.
That's my thing. It's not that I'm saying that Ben Simmons shouldn't win it. I do think Ben Simmons should have a chance to win it. But narratives.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna win either. Like I said, I picked AD, but
yeah,
I think there's a chance he finishes like I don't know if they go top 5 for Depoy. They
No,
probably
they
just
could.
top 3.
They have like
But
top 3 when they announce it, but they have like the chart of
yeah,
like
they
guys
show
who
all
got
the
first
votes.
and
Right.
points and um
Right.
I definitely like when you mentioned AD and Ben Simmons, I do pick AD over Ben Simmons right now. Just
Oh yeah, for
because
sure.
of like the
Yeah.
narrative thing of like we
The
cannot pick this
winningness.
guy
Yeah.
once he gets traded. We cannot
Absolutely.
like we can't give it to a guy on the Kings. Like we
You can't
we
give it
can't
to
do
a
it.
guy on the Pistons or wherever the hell he
And
goes.
I love my Kings. I love my Kings, but I know
They're
it's not
easy as
gonna
Kings,
happen.
guys, for the record.
I'm a Warriors fan #1, but if someone says what's my second favorite team, I'm gonna go Kings.
THT looking nice. I mean the Halliburton, my bad.
Yeah, man.
But all right. So I think so. I had AD and you guys had Gobert, right?
Nah,
Had Giannis.
Benny had Giannis.
Oh, sorry, Ben had Giannis. Okay, Ben had Giannis. You gotta Gobert.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that does it for our Depoy conversation. We'll see.
Yeah.
See how it goes. Um, and then we're gonna move on next to most improved player. This is always kind of like a shot in the dark award. I feel like it's all,
Could
of
be
course,
Wait,
anything.
Mike, I
naturally
think
it's
you
gonna
kind of
be, yeah.
sorry, I think you kind of flip-flopped a little bit because you were telling us off pod that Sabonis was going to be MVP and Depoy.
Depoy, yeah, for sure. No, absolutely. Based off of our last podcast where I said how much I fucking love Sabonis, yeah, he's gonna really be he's gonna pull Giannis and get like MVP and Depoy.
Hey,
Yeah.
man, that guy's a gym rat. I like him.
He's a fiend. Easy's looking at his Instagram workouts.
Yo, that guy, I'm telling you, in the offseason, I was like, yo, Sabonis looking kind of nice right now. Like, that guy, I don't know, man.
Nice.
He looks good. But
How good? How
most
good?
improved. Most improved. How good? We'll see. I like we'll get into the playoffs.
We'll get into it when we talk about
Yeah.
our standings.
Yeah.
But okay, so I guess we'll go on to most improved. I guess I'll kick it to you, Benny. Who do you have as MIP?
I picked Michael Porter Jr. to win most improved player.
Okay, wow, good pick.
Yeah, reason being, obviously he did not win it this past season, right? It was
No.
yeah, he probably
No,
should
I forgot
have.
who won it. No.
He probably should have won it. He just completely exploded this past season from 9 to 19 points, excuse me. And I think now he's grown into that role of probably being the second best offensive player on that team. I think now with the Jamal Murray injury, he's going to have even more room to grow into that space. And with the contract that they gave him, we saw the numbers. I don't remember them. If you guys can remind me, it was like 200 and something million dollars plus.
It was
Whatever it was.
for Porter
6.
Jr. It was
Yeah.
207, I think. But what
Yeah.
that's with if he hits every incentive and makes like
Right,
an all NBA
right.
team.
It's
I think it's
still
170
still
minimum.
Yes.
basically maybe it's not a supermax, but it's basically right. It's
It's
enormous
essentially a
amounts of
max,
money,
yeah.
and that tells me that you could say that the Nuggets didn't really have a choice if they want to keep him, whatever. I still think that tells me that the Nuggets see this guy as being a legit second star and that they do not have to use their assets to find one because they see Michael Porter Jr. as that second star on a legitimate championship team. And again, with the Jamal Murray injury, hopefully he can come back for the playoffs. But I imagine when he comes to the season, it'll still be a slow process for him. I could see Michael Porter Jr. crack 25 points, easily 25 points. He had 7 rebounds. He could probably get more than that. His playmaking can grow. He only had 1 assist a game last year. I could definitely see him take big strides, excuse me, from an offensive perspective, enough on a great team to make a massive impact.
Yeah, like you said, he's going to get the opportunity for it after that contract. So that's a really good pick. Almost makes me want to change my pick, but I think I'll stick with mine for now. Easy, you want to go next?
I'll let you go next because I have like
Okay.
a couple names that I could bring up.
Yeah, so Benny, you make a great point with MPJ, but I'm going to stick with the guy I originally picked. You can call me biased. It's fine. I'm going to go Jaren Jackson Jr. on this one.
Okay. I thought
Not a Heat player.
I thought you were going to say Tyler Hero.
I thought the same
you were
thing.
gonna
Oh my
say
God,
Tyler
no,
Hero,
no,
man.
please.
I
Oh
thought
my
the
God,
same
no,
exact
God.
thing.
no, definitely not. I think this podcast
You
was
said,
probably
"Oh, call me biased."
call me biased, wearing the Heat shirt. No, but I'm gonna go with my second love, the Memphis Grizzlies' very own Jaren Jackson Jr. So obviously last year was really rough. He was hurt most of the year with torn meniscus. So we'll see how he comes back from that. Obviously, that's kind of going to be a big factor as his health. But I think it's kind of like in terms of a narrative to go back to the idea, which is like where a lot of these awards lie. I think we've seen it before, where you have a really talented young guy has a down year, has a injury riddled year, comes back. He's going into his I think 4th season now.
Yeah, 4th year
he's
now.
gonna have probably the best team he's ever been on since he's been in the league. I think he's going to have a lot of opportunity. Obviously, he's going to start. So I can see him really improving. He has a ton of talent. I mean, just to go off his peak season, which was his second year, he was averaging 17, 4.5 rebounds, which is gonna have to go up. He was doing 56% effective field goal, 74% from the line. So I think if those numbers jump up, he's averaging 22, 23. He's averaging 7 or 8 rebounds, still being very efficient because he still is a very efficient scorer. I mean, he was shooting 40% his second year from 3-point. So if he's continuing that on that road of efficiency, Memphis could definitely make the playoffs this year. I think he's a guy to watch out for. A little bit of a dark horse, but I like his chances.
Yeah, those are two really good picks. By the way, last year it was Julius Randle that won Most Improved.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, there you go.
And that was obvious who was going to win
Yeah,
that one.
for sure.
Yeah.
In mine, I have 3 names that caught my attention. I'm going to call this the Most Improved Junior Award because the 3 guys I have in my top 3 all have junior in their name.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Michael Porter was my choice as well. Benny and I are just overlapping a lot today, but
Yeah, for real, same
wavelengths here, man.
bro, because I cannot see a team signing a guy for 5 years, 207 mil max, and not think of him as a top 2 scoring option on a team, whether Jamal Murray is there or not. Like,
Agreed. Yeah.
You cannot pay a man that much money or invest that much into the future of that guy without thinking that he's gonna be a primary scorer. You're not signing him for his defense. I know that for sure. Like, I know you're not signing him because he has defensive prowess. So, like, barring the vaccine and all that, I don't know what that status is on Michael Porter, and I don't know what the hell's going on with that. But point being, if Michael Porter does play the games this year, I see it. 19 points a game. I could easily see that going up without Jamal Murray being there to like 25, 26. Similar jump than like Julius Randle, but more into like the 20s, like the higher stats. As a rebounder, he's already pretty good. That number could go up as well. I don't know. It just makes a lot of sense from that perspective. I do have 2 other names. I have Jaren Jackson Jr. as well. Now with Jonas Valanciunas not there anymore, they need a big to step up. He needs to be that big. This is the year he needs to make a jump, whether barring injury or not, he needs to do it for his own sake. He'll get a good contract regardless because of upside, but he needs to show Memphis that he is like worth that money pretty much. Because as of right now, yeah, that second season was good, but what's happening with that knee? What's happening with his health? We got to know. If he's healthy, I could see him having like a 20 and like 6 season. I don't think he's as good of a rebounder.
No,
as like, I don't think that's like his build. I think he's more of like a stretch 4 type, but happens
he's a stretch
to be
4,
7
stretch 5. Exactly. Yeah.
Which is why I thought Valanciunas would complement him really well, but unfortunately, that's not the case because Valanciunas isn't there.
Yeah, he's gone.
My third pick, which could be interesting, is Kevin Porter Jr. on Houston. It's a team that literally is going to be trash. They're going to need guys to score. Jalen Green, we'll talk about those guys later, but
yeah, we're gonna talk about him.
But Kevin Porter Jr. is a guy that dropped 50 last year out of nowhere. Like, clearly, this guy has an upside for scoring. That he's at 16 points per game right now. I could totally see him improving and just like having that ability. So those were the 3 guys I had on my list, but I would probably go with Michael Porter Jr. I know that Lonzo was a popular pick, but I don't think he'll get enough shine with Zach LaVine, Vooch, and who's this third guy that's there too? I forget. Oh, DeMar DeRozan.
Oh yeah, DeRozan. Yeah, they just got him.
They literally just got him. Yeah. So I'm going Michael Porter. I don't think it's gonna end up being Michael Porter, but for me, I'm picking Michael Porter right now.
I like it. So, Benny, who did you have again? I already forgot.
Michael Porter.
Yeah. Okay. So you both had Michael Porter, and I had
Jaren Jackson.
Triple J. So yeah, we'll see who wins that. I guess we'll move on. Next award will be Rookie of the Year. So, Easy just kind of mentioned one of the guys I think that's probably gonna get picked. I guess I'll throw it to you, Easy. Why don't you kick us off then?
It's obviously between 2 guys, right?
Yeah.
We're not gonna disagree on this. I know there could be a dark horse barring injuries, but like,
yeah, there's always every now and then there's like a surprise guy, but yeah.
I'm gonna take Jalen Green. In the G League, he showed that he could play against guys not only in his class, but also even from the NBA that have more experience. As the season went on, he improved. So he showed that he has some growth potential as well during the season, not just in the off season. In the summer league, I know we don't make a big deal out of summer league for like the top guys because like anyone can dominate if you're a top pick. But just for like perspective, the guy was averaging 20 points per game, shot 51% from the field and 52% from the three. That's kind of nuts.
Yeah,
And 90% from
that's
the
really
free throw
nice.
line.
Yeah, I was looking at
Um,
those summer league stats too, and it's only 3 games, but they
that
were
is
pretty good.
nuts.
Yeah,
That is nuts.
yeah.
So, and on a team like Houston where we don't know what's going on with John Wall, I know that they're trying to buy him out or like try to trade him because he already wants that. So you have Kevin Porter, you got Kelly Olynyk, or no, not even Kelly Olynyk. He's with Detroit now. So you need a scorer.
Where are the
You
shots gonna
drafted
go?
him.
Yeah,
Eric Gordon is probably going to come off the bench, maybe get bought out or traded because he's not going to want to
you
be there
probably
for
get
a
traded.
rebuild.
Oh yeah,
They have a bunch of young guys, so clearly they're going for the future upside stuff, which means you got to play them, whether you win or lose. So I'm gonna go Jalen Green. I'm not gonna talk about the other guy because I know you guys will probably talk about him, but yeah, Jalen Green's my pick.
well, I also have Jalen Green. I'm not gonna belabor the point. I think he
So
made
do I.
basically everything. Yeah, so we're all on the
Sweet.
Jalen Green committee. I don't have anything else to add. Benny, do you have anything else?
No, like Izzy was saying,
Yeah.
he's probably the, at least from what we know, right? Because there's always that one random guy. But at least from what we know right now, Jalen Green seems to be the best scorer coming out of this class. And like Izzy was saying, he's going to be on a poor team, to say the least. So he's going to get a lot of volume, a lot of opportunities to really show his skills and to really develop them as the season goes on. I could easily see him have a very good season scoring wise and even efficiently. And I think that Scott Silas, he hasn't had the best chance because he's had a garbage roster, but I do think Scott Silas has the makings of a good head coach.
Are you talking about Steven Silas?
Oh, sorry, Steven Silas. Yeah,
I was like
I
Scott
forgot his first
Styles,
name too.
Scott Silas. I'm like, okay, what's he going for here?
Steven Silas, Steven Silas.
They
I
all sound the
think,
same. All the
yeah,
names.
Steven
Yeah.
Silas. Sorry, and I think that's Steven Silas has the makings of a good head coach, and I think he'll do a good job with a young roster and then with Jalen Green at the helm of that.
Yeah, I will. In that case, I will talk a little bit about Cade.
Go for it.
I do think he has a really good chance. Like I'm not.
For sure.
I could see this going either way, just because. Let's say the Rockets have enough young guys that they all pop off, right? Like, what if Josh Christopher ends up actually taking a bigger role? Not than Jalen Green necessarily, but like everyone can have a chance. At least in Detroit, I can't see another scorer besides like Sadiq Bey, Jeremy Grant. You get me? Like, I don't know. And then Cade in Summer League 2 was shooting 42% from the field, 50 from three. And he was averaging 18, 5, and 2. And he showed an ability to actually spot up like in Summer League. I think there was a game where Cade made like 7 or 8 threes out of 10. So like he has that ability. I just think that Jalen Green has like, man, I hate doing rookie of the year because it's not about who has the biggest upside. It's more about who had the better season.
Right.
So like I'm still picking Jalen as the bigger upside one too, but I can easily see Cade winning the award too. Like it's a toss up. And then it's not going to matter, but like third or fourth, my low key dark horse is Devon Mitchell.
Really? Okay.
I just think that the Kings don't know what they're doing, so they'll play a lot of guards. And
Yeah,
I
I
don't
still
know,
see the
man.
opportunity for him there, but like you're right,
Yeah.
the Kings are gonna king. So
I just don't see
Yeah.
the Kings setting him up right.
yeah,
I just
And they'll expect too
know
much of
that
him. Maybe.
I don't know if they'll expect too much because I think as like when it like a 3 guard rotation, not at the same time, but like De'Aaron, you have Tyrese, and then you also have Davion. That's a pretty decent guard
It is.
trio. In terms of defensively, you address it. Offensively, you address it, and Halliburton does a bit of both. So, and again, Halliburton's a little more flexible with the small forward position too, if you really wanted to. So, again, the Kings are going to Kings. I just assume he's going to get minutes because
And
he
it's
showed
Luke
out in
Walton,
summer
man.
league as well. So, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see. But it's Jalen Green or Cade, and I guess we're all going Jalen.
yeah. I think we all see kind of Jalen getting the most opportunity on a really bad team. So
Yeah.
and he's already shown it, like you said. So yeah, I think we'll move on to our last award. So Coach of the Year. I'm really curious to see who we all have. I guess I'll go first. I kind of just went with the favorite, which is Steve Nash. I think if he's able to put it together this year, I think regardless of whether or not you have a super team or not, I don't think the media really cares. Because Steve Nash is somebody who I think the media wants to give credit to if the team does well. It's kind of like the whole Steve Kerr thing. Though I don't know if Steve Kerr ever won Coach of the Year. You guys are gonna have to
I'm almost
let
positive
me
he
know.
did 1 year. I have
Yeah,
to
I want to
check.
say he did, right? Yeah. So I can see him getting it like this year. Maybe it may be the only year that he gets it. I guess we'll announce later who we think is going to win win the chip and everything. But obviously they have a great chance. I think they're going to put it together this year, health permitting, vaccine situation permitting. Um, so yeah, I went Nash.
I would have picked Nash, but I was thinking back on it, and I think that he deserved a lot more credit last year than maybe he got. They were almost the number 1 seed from what I remember correctly, and I'm pretty sure those three of Kyrie, Harden, and Durant barely played together. You guys can correct me
Yeah,
if I'm wrong,
they
but
were one game behind
Barely.
the Sixers for the one seed.
they exactly they barely played together. They were I don't know how they developed any sort of chemistry together. And like Mike just said, they were half a game to a game away back from the
Yeah.
one seed. I just don't see it happening for him this year unless they get it the number 1 seed outright and they win it by like 5 or 6 games maybe. But that's just me. Maybe I'm wrong. And he does get to win it. I think it is a fair shot, and I think it would be fair if he wins it under those circumstances. The guy that I ended up going with, excuse me, was Quinn Snyder.
Okay.
I think Quinn Snyder is a little bit overdue for this award, and it looks like Easy picked him as well. But I went with Quinn Snyder. I think he's a little overdue for this award, and especially in the Western Conference, you look at all the teams that have reloaded. The Lakers seemingly reloaded a little bit. The Suns are coming back. They're going to try to push for another top 2-3 seed for a home court advantage in the playoffs, try to make another finals push with Chris Paul. The Clippers are going to want to come back, make another push, make a real push for the finals for once. The Nuggets
yeah.
the Nuggets are still hanging around. They're going to really try to prove it to themselves that they belong in that conversation. So I could see the Western Conference regular season, obviously there's a regular season award, really going all out with just insane play from a whole bunch of different teams going for it in a very, very tough Western Conference. And kind of like it was last year, and the Utah Jazz were actually the number 1 seed, if we remember last year in the Western Conference. And so we're going to get into the NBA standings now, but I have them as under all in that whole storm of the Western Conference of the Nuggets, the Clippers, the Lakers, the Suns, all these guys. I still have the Jazz as the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, and I think that would be enough to give it to Quinn Snyder. Honestly, like I said, it's long overdue for one.
Yeah, I picked Quinn Snyder. It's exactly what I don't know why we're picking the same people today. I don't know what's going on.
We haven't talked about
no Spoelstra.
I wanted to, but for that, I just realized nobody even knows who that is apparently. So.
I was gonna say nobody's gonna pick a Heat player to win an award. We can agree on that, right?
That's never gonna happen.
They're never gonna get picked.
There's too much overlap.
Yeah. I picked
too
Quinn
much
Snyder.
envy. Too much envy is what it is.
Yeah, right? Totally.
Too much hate in this world.
Just lack of culture and decency.
Yeah. It's just like how the Kings will never have a coach of the year, but whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, I want Quinn Snyder. Makes too much sense. Team that has something to prove after failing last year. We can call it a failure last year. Especially without Kawhi. Their mental failure.
They were up 2-0, weren't they?
Yeah, they were up 2-0. It was the same thing that the Mavs had, that they were up 2-0, and then they ended up going 7, but these guys ended up going 6, I'm pretty sure. So
yeah, exactly.
It's overdue. It's a team that's stayed the same except added a couple pieces. I think they added Rudy Gay and they added Whiteside.
Oh yeah, the missing ingredient.
They did.
Right? As if Gobert wasn't enough in the paint. Let's add Whiteside.
More big boys.
So it's overdue. His teams always win every year. We'll get into the standings, but I also have them number 1 in the West. So a couple dark horses, just because the way Coach of the Year goes, from at least what I've understood, it's either going to be the guy who just has like an outright better record than everybody else. So for example, Steve Kerr did win the year they won 73-9.
Right.
Because that's like an outright, like
you have to give it to him.
Right. Yeah. Even though he didn't coach 45 of those games, Luke Walton did, but I digress.
Coach of the Year.
Literally. A couple sleepers, and it's really going to depend on how their teams do. Just because, for example, like Thibodeau with the Knicks last year, he won because he brought them out of nowhere. I have Ime Udoka, the coach for the
Boston.
Celtics.
Man.
I could definitely see it, just because since he's a fresh face, maybe they won't, they're obviously going to be better than 7th seed, in my opinion. So based on that projection, also him being a new coach, I could definitely see them being like, oh, he turned it around. One of those things. The other one, Chicago, Billy Donovan, just for the nature of the roster that he has.
Yeah, he was also a dark horse for me too.
Yeah, so I have those two as dark horses. I think Quinn Snyder, just because that's the safest pick, I guess, right now. We don't know how the season's going to turn out, so I went with the safe pick of Quinn Snyder. And yeah.
Cool. So I think that does it for all our NBA awards. I guess just to quickly recap for MVP, I had Joel, Benny, and Easy. You guys had KD, right?
Yeah.
Clarkson, we all agreed for Sixth Man of the Year. Just name it after him. Depoy, we all had different answers for Depoy. I think it was the only one that we all had different stuff for. Well, besides Coach of the Year. Or no, you guys had Quinn Snyder for Coach of the Year. What I'm saying. Anyways, so I had AD. You Easy had Gobert, even though you hate Gobert.
I hate Gobert so much.
And Betty had Giannis. Most improved, I had Triple J. You guys had MPJ. Coach of the Year had Nash, and both of you guys had Quinn Snyder. What's with you guys agreeing, man? Stop agreeing. I'm feeling
Great minds
left
think
out.
alike. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah,
feeling left out, man.
It's one of those.
And Rookie of the Year, I don't know if I messed up. We all had Jalen Green, so at least they were green.
Oh, we agreed on 1/3 of our awards right here. All right,
that's not
and then
bad.
Benny and I agreed on everything except we agreed on 2/3. So I mean, I'm feeling pretty good right now. I thought I was alone with some of these.
Yeah,